in order to get an apartment, a regular apartment where you're renting from an agency or a person, you have to have a French bank account. In order to get a month-to-month cell phone account, you have to have a French bank account.
I see.
And well, here's an ironic thing though. In order to get a French bank account, you have to have an apartment. You have to have an address. I was like, well, riddle me that, Batman. How does that work out? You can't.
Okay, so today we're going to head over to Paris with my new friend Will Conley. Will is a expat from the U.S. that found his way. We're going to learn he found his way to France, living in the beautiful, incredible city of Paris, and we're going to find out if retiring or living in Paris is affordable. Will Conley, thanks so much for doing the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
So give us a little bit of backstory about where you're from and how you identified France as a retirement destination for you, and how did you select to live in Paris?
Okay, so kind of a long story. I in high school I took French and did an exchange program in Quebec, Canada. After my junior year, I majored in French in college, and the Oregon State system had an exchange program in Poitiers, which is west central France, a couple hours southwest by train. And so I did that for a year, my junior year abroad, and came home, finished my degree, taught French off and on, as well as theater and English. And I was married, had kids, came back to Europe and France several times, student trips, family trips. And, France has always just felt like home to me. I felt comfortable. Yeah, I do speak the language. And so always kind of a dream, to retire in France. And I ended up getting divorced. My children were grown, and retirement was coming closer and closer. And I was in a relationship that I knew was going to end, and I thought I need a fresh start. My kids had separate conversations with me about their lives. They're both teachers themselves, and they said, "Dad, I don't think I'm going to stay in Oregon. I want to find a job with Department of Defense or work in Europe. Teaching an American school there or something." And I was thinking, wow, I'm retiring, and my kids are thinking of going away. Why? And they weren't married, no grandkids, so nothing was really holding me. So I thought, hey, why don't I look into retiring to France? And then, COVID happened. And it was really, a lot of people said, hey, if you teach another year or two, you'll get this much more in retirement. Just stick it out a couple more years. And what happened was, at first, from that March to June, everybody was home. It was like triage teaching. And it was really weird and strange. And then, everything was closed. All schools were still closed in the fall, but my particular school district required teachers to come in and teach from school in empty classrooms. And it was the loneliest year of my life. And I had an hour commute. I lived in Portland, Oregon, taught in a small town by Salem, our state capital. And it was the loneliest year of my life. And that commute started to bug me every day. And so as soon as I could, I thought, I'm retiring.
Yeah.
And so I, started looking into, what would it take to move to Paris, went online. I think I just Googled France visa and requirements. And so there are several different kinds of visas. So I looked at, the one that's appropriate to me. I don't know what it's exactly called, but basically for retired people. And I looked into the requirements. I looked at my income, my projected retirement income, and I thought, huh, I think I can do this.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of what brought me to Paris. Well, that's what made me think about France. Um, I chose Paris specifically because even though I love nice sunny weather and I love walking the beach, I'm single. And I thought, if I'm in some small town out in the middle of nowhere, what if I get sick of walking the beach? And so
Sure.
I thought, Paris is a good if you know is a good plan because if I get bored in Paris, me problem. So that's
Yeah.
ultimately why I decided Paris.
Nice. Well, that's awesome. Well, that's fantastic. So is is Paris is is it like for the viewers that are watching it, is it affordable to live in today? Can people do it affordably?
It is, everything is, relative, I guess.
Sure.
If you live in a big city in the United States, it's very comparable. Rent prices are comparable
Okay.
uh, to big city. If you're from a small, but even smaller, I think rents and housing prices are crazy in the United States right now.
Yes.
Um, but I can go ahead and tell you what I pay and what I get for that. I'm in a one bedroom. It's a traditional apartment. Uh, it's modest. It probably is about 450, 500 square feet. Three rooms that are about the same size. There's a kitchen, dining room, a living room, and a bedroom.
Mm-hmm.
And I pay 1,380 euros a month, which is
Okay.
kind of comparable to what I was paying in Portland.
Mm-hmm.
Um, So, it's not outrageous. Now, to purchase property in Paris, it's, it's astronomical,
Sure.
like you'd pay in New York City or Chicago or something.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so, in my situation, I guess I was fortunate that I did not have a house to sell in the
Mm-hmm.
United States. I, um, I had sold my car and I didn't have debt. That's the biggest thing. I would say before contemplating a move like that, like this, try to get out of debt
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because I think that's what really holds back a lot of people: the mortgages, the car payments, the credit card debt.
Yep, sure. Okay, so as far as okay, so you're paying 1380. When you started to look for apartments, can are there more affordable options in and around Paris?
Well, there are, and it depends on your lifestyle and um, how many people might be coming in and out. So, I looked at some studio apartments, and I have a friend who had lived in a studio apartment really right in central Paris, right uh, close to Place de la République. He was paying like 550 euros, but it was tiny.
Yeah.
Literally, it had a shower, a toilet, a bed, and you stand up from bed, and there's your cooktop and refrigerator. I mean, it
Yeah,
was tiny. And I
sure.
thought for me that couldn't work. I couldn't, I you would feel like you'd have to be out of the apartment all the time, which
Mm-hmm.
I know, and it's kind of a trend in the United States for what are they called, micro lofts, or
Sure. Yeah.
for people their living room is the city.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew that wouldn't be my lifestyle. I knew my children would come to visit, or various relatives or friends would come, and I would just need a little more space so that I could
Mm-hmm.
you know host people here and there.
Yeah.
And they
Will,
have come too. So it's been, yeah.
are you living in the central area of Paris where you can walk everywhere?
I am actually I'm living, it's technically on the right bank, but it's eastern Paris, close to Bois de Vincennes. There are two huge wooded parks in Paris. One's on the west end, uh, the Bois de Boulogne, and Bois de Vincennes is on the eastern end. So I'm close to that.
Okay. So
About a
if
20-minute walk from Bastille.
okay, nice. Yeah, and it's a beautiful city to walk around in. So
Yeah. Oh, and I do a lot of walking.
yeah, if people live a little bit further out, ca- do how much do they come down in price as far as
Yeah.
rentals that you've seen?
I'll tell you, it's kind of one of a hobby of mine. It always has been to look at, real estate offices. They always have posted their rental prices, as you walk by. And just last week, I was in the little medieval town of Provins,
Hmm.
which is by a commuter train, about an hour and 20 minutes from Paris. And I just saw a few listings, and one was for, it looked beautiful in the pictures. It was a 3-bedroom apartment, modern, remodeled, and I believe it was 900 euros.
Okay.
Much bigger place, and you got a lot more.
Yeah, nice. Okay. All right, cool.
Outside, outside of the urban areas, France is extraordinarily affordable. It's like
Yes.
shockingly so
Yes.
compared to, because when I think of the United States, even small towns, at least in Oregon, Washington, Pacific Northwest, I'm sure. I know in the South, Southeast, there are some really affordable places. But where I'm from, even small towns, rents are astronomical, and
Right.
housing to buy is astronomical. But
Yeah.
it's not that way in France yet.
Not yet. Not yet. Yeah, you're right. And
Right.
there's a lot of great real estate buys if you want to stay outside of the
Yeah.
big cities. It's
Right.
really super affordable. If you want to get outside and identify one of those really cool towns in a rural area, you can get a great buy right now. Um,
Right. And and I think we were talking before the broadcast started. I'm considering moving out of Paris. What holds me back is that I am single
mhm,
and I don't have a job.
mhm.
So I think being in a more rural place would be easier if I had something to occupy my time more.
Yeah,
Whereas
exactly.
now my life is, oh, what museum shall I go to today?
Hmm.
If
Yeah,
the weather's good, will I walk?
yeah, and with you speaking French, I mean, you could probably go work at a museum or work at a bookstore or something like that, which would be kind of neat.
Well, I could, accept, and we were going to talk about the visa requirements.
Yes.
Uh, do you want to move into that
Yeah, let's
to
talk
talk
about
about the
that.
visa?
Yeah.
And I went online, to get the information, and there's several requirements. You have to, some of them are kind of ironic. You have to provide an address where you'll be living. This is
Hmm.
before you ever get here. You have to show a proof of income. And for me, it was, I hadn't retired yet. I just sent my state's retirement system's estimates
Right.
of what my monthly salary would be. And then you had to show some bank accounts that show you had some money. It's not a terrible amount. Um, you have to buy a year travel insurance policy.
Hmm.
And just to tell you what I pay for a year of this travel insurance policy, I think it's $1,100 a year.
Okay.
Now, um, health insurance costs in the United States are astronomical. After I retired there, my out of pocket monthly premium would be $750 or $850 a month. So
Right.
here for a year, it's 1,100.
Yeah.
So that
Okay.
was a requirement. I had to purchase that. I think I had to get notarized copies of my bank statements. Um, and then I had to promise that I was not going to get a job.
Yes. Okay.
And the idea behind that, there, if you can afford to come and stay, we want you here. We just don't want you taking jobs
Away
from
from
other people, from their
sure.
residents.
Yeah.
And that makes sense.
Yes.
But I think after a year, and I thought I was renewing my visa, but it wasn't that. It was, the first year is a visa that's actually a stamp in your passport.
Hmm.
And then when you go to renew, it's a carte de séjour. And it's looks like a driver's license, which is a residence card. And I'm not sure, but I think now in the second year that I would be allowed to work.
I see. Okay. Well, let's break down a little bit if you know this information. So what
Yeah.
is the minimum requirement that you have to show, your pension has to show per month? Do you know
Um,
for France?
I hate to give out wrong information. I know it's on their website.
Okay.
Um, it's like France visa, whatever. It
Yeah.
seems to me it's like somewhere, not a terrible amount. I want to say between $1,500 and $2,500 a month.
Okay.
And it
Okay.
varies based on the address. If you have a friend or a family member who lives in France, if you can use them as an address, then it's much lower.
Interesting.
I didn't have that available to me, so
Yeah. Okay. And so there was a requirement to put a deposit in a bank account as well?
no, you didn't have to put a deposit. You don't even have to have, I'll get to this in a minute. You don't have to have a French bank account.
Yeah.
You just have to show that in your American accounts, you have some money.
Okay. Do you know what that sum is?
I don't. I will have
No.
maybe when we're done, I can look that up and or give you a link to the
Yeah.
site. I don't recall, but it was not an extraordinary, extraordinarily large
Yeah.
amount.
Okay. So that'll help the viewers understand, even if they qualify to move to France, there's a minimum requirement as far as pension or passive income that they're going to need to show, as well as a
Yeah,
lump sum of money in a bank account. And those two
right,
will determine if they even qualify to live in France, right?
right.
Okay. All right, great.
I want to talk about one thing that's kind of ironic, and that's to qualify for your visa, you already have to have an address in France.
Okay.
And that was something that worried me. And so I started looking on, well, there's a parisstay.com. And the one I actually went for was, it's called
Hmm.
housinganywhere.com. And it's like an Airbnb kind of thing, but they go, it's not like weekly rentals they do, it's for a month or several months at a time. So I started looking at that and I found a place. It looked reasonable. It was, within my budget. So I went with that and I got the address of the place so that when I went for my visa appointment, I had the address
Okay.
and a confirmation letter that yes, actually I was going to be living there. So
Hmm.
what that did, and I booked that for 6 months. So I figured, okay, I've got 6 months. I moved to France, and that will give me time to find a permanent place.
Hmm. Okay. So that's how you worked it.
That's how I worked it. I don't know how other. I've read on sites. I think it was the site where you and I came in contact from Facebook, the Expat group. Somebody still in there. It could be any address. It could be a hotel. It can be. You have to have confirmed that you'll be there.
I see.
Um, but here's another thing that very very important that I didn't know about. When you make the move to France, well, depending on your situation, my cousin lives in Germany. She works for the Department of Defense for a contractor with them. She still does not have a German bank account, but all of her housing needs and everything is provided, or they
Yeah.
go through the government.
Hmm.
So she doesn't necessarily have the same requirements. But for me, in order um, in order to get an apartment, a regular apartment where you're renting from an agency or a person, you have to have a French bank account. In order to get a month to month cell phone account, you have to have a French bank account.
I see.
And um, well, here's an ironic thing though. In order to get a French bank account, you have to have an apartment. You have to
Yeah.
have an address. I was like, well, riddle me that, Batman.
Yeah.
How does that work out? You can't. You have to have the one to get the other. So luckily, I had that housing anywhere apartment, and so the bank worked with that. That was fine. They also wanted a utility bill, which
Hmm.
I didn't have. because it's, like Airbnb, you pay and the owner pays
Sure.
all of those things. And for the bank account, it was fine. But when I went to get the cell phone account, well, and they have another rule for cell phone accounts, at least at Orange, who I'm with, you have to have lived there for 90 days, and that
Mm.
address is not good enough. They want that utility bill. I was like,
Wow.
I don't have it.
Yeah.
Well, I sweet talked the lady, because I kind of know how to get around that initial French brusqueness,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
attitude. I know how to get around that. So she's like, okay, you don't really have the documentation, but I'm going to let you do it.
Yeah.
So
That's
like,
good. Good, man. Good. All right. Well, thanks for that. That's good information. Well, let's talk about the cost now. So, in your apartment, everybody's interested in what are utilities. They want to compare it from where they're coming from. What do you pay per month on utilities? What do you budget?
well, several things are much cheaper in Europe. Cell phone bills, way cheaper. I think I
Okay.
pay $30 a month for one cell phone.
Okay.
Um, my uh, internet I have with a separate company. I think I'm going to join. I'm going to combine those, and I think I pay about 40 euros a month for internet,
Okay.
and then for electricity, it's about 50 to 55. And I did the program where they just average it out over the year. My heating is like it's the owner. I don't know how the owner pays for that, but it's radiator heating, so it's
Hmm.
just included in the rent.
Okay. How about water?
Water is included in the rent as well, and
Oh,
garbage.
okay.
And that pretty much is. I think you're going to find that water and garbage is going to be pretty much standardly paid if you're in an apartment,
If you're
because
okay.
they collectively do that.
Sure. Okay. How about groceries per month? What do you budget for that so far?
Well, here's that. What do I budget? I'm not really a budget person,
Yeah.
um, but I do look for bargains, and I don't I'll go for the store brand rather than the you know the brand name. I and this is totally informal um, data, just my anecdotal. I think here in Paris, it is at least 25% cheaper for
Interesting.
groceries than in the United States. And the
Wow.
variety, I cannot believe the variety of foods that French people eat. It's
Hmm.
anything you can imagine.
Yeah. Wow. Can you get by, do you think, on spending about 200 a month on groceries
Uh,
for a single person?
you, I think you could. I
Yeah.
mean, that would be the minimum. I think I spend more than that, but
Okay. How much do you think you spend per month?
I probably get 250 or 300, but I don't really watch that closely.
Okay. All right. And Will, how do you get around Paris? How do you move around?
Well, I do a ton of walking. Paris is a very, very walkable city.
Okay.
Um, but I also use the metro and the bus system, which,
Okay.
they're amazing. Uh, some months, uh, I buy a monthly metro pass, which is good on all transportation, public transportation, really, in the whole metropolitan area. So that town that I was talking about, Provence, where that I went to last week, and I saw the cheap apartment, hour and 20 minutes away. That's included in the monthly pass.
Okay.
So
And
it's
that's on
really kind of a vast area that it's included. The cost months that I choose to buy that is 85 euros.
and that includes buses and
That
metro, everything.
everything. And um, the the train rides to airports to and
Okay.
from that is included as well.
Nice.
But I don't buy the pass every month. Um, some months I travel. I'm not going to be in Paris. I just spent two 2 weeks in Oregon, and so for April, I didn't buy a pass for April. There's
Mhm.
also cards called a Navigo Easy Pass, and it's just a little card. You pay €2 for it, and then you can buy tickets in, well, you can buy one, but if you buy 10, a metro ticket is like euro 70.
Mm-hmm.
So in shorter months, I won't buy the monthly pass, but I have the Navigo card and I just put 10, 10 at a time on that.
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
And
What do
that's,
they charge per ride? Do you know on the metro?
I, I believe it's, I want to say 210. I think it
Okay.
just went up. It might be 225.
Have you had an opportunity to get out of France and fly anywhere nearby and check out any
Oh yeah.
places?
Frequently.
Okay.
Um, I've, I've flown to Italy. I have friends who live in Vicenza, kind of close to Venice. I've flown to Barcelona, Madrid twice. I have a former exchange student who lives there, so I've gone to see him and his family. Uh, I I don't fly to London because I take the Eurostar, but I flew to Dublin last year. My daughter's coming. We're gonna travel around Northern Ireland this summer, so going back there, going to Italy again. So a lot.
Nice. Yeah, that's beautiful. So you have access to so many amazing places. What are the flight costs out of
Well,
out of
it
France?
varies. Um, to fly from France, I don't know if you know Google Flights. Have you looked at that program?
I
And
have, yeah.
you look there and you put in like a sample. Hey, I want to go to Madrid. What's it cost? And you save that, and they'll come up with different times. I've seen it for uh, round trip Paris to Madrid as low as 36 euros.
Okay. Who is that flying with? What airline?
It varies. EasyJet, Vueling,
Okay.
uh, it just really it varies. But they say if you have to be flexible about when you go,
Sure.
because like once every other week, it's like, hey, your Madrid trip is 56 euros if you go during this week.
Yeah. Okay. So it's really affordable to fly to different countries in Europe, it sounds like.
Right, because it's so close.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or, comparable, if I were to fly from Paris to London, that's like flying Portland to Seattle,
Sure.
right? It's
Mhm.
Portland to Seattle to drive is what, 3.5 hours, and to fly is 45 minutes an hour. So,
Yeah. Okay, great.
or to fly to San Francisco for.
Okay, thanks for that, Will. So let's jump into entertainment and fun restaurants. What do you do? What can you do for fun in Paris?
Well, you can do just about anything. It's
Anything.
Paris. Um,
It is.
I do, museums and parks and walking is, what I like to do. When I'm on my own. I don't go out to a lot of restaurants. Um, I save that for when, friends or family are coming. And then I'm not, I like good food, but I'm not like a foodie. I don't like need to find the coolest, fanciest, restaurants to go to. So as far as recommendations on that, I don't have a lot of specific places. There's theater here.
Mm-hmm.
Sadly, in the time I've been here, I've only been actually to one play. Uh, but also, movie theaters. I have a monthly movie pass, and it's unlimited through the
Nice.
chain theater here, and I can go. It's like 22 euros a month, and I can go every day if I want.
Oh, wow. That's great. It's endless. I mean, it's a interesting question, but when you live in a place like Paris or New York City, or London. I mean, there's just so much to do that you could never run out of different options or different things. What do you think? I mean, and it sounds to me like it's a beautiful city to walk. You can make new discoveries probably every day walking through the city. That's one of the things. The parks are amazing in Paris. If you
Yeah,
were to budget, for entertainment, or what could you put a number on it per month?
per month. That goes.
Yeah.
That's a hard. It's like miscellaneous.
Yes,
Uh,
it
I
is.
don't. I don't budget. I'm just more like I have a general sense. Oh, I spent a lot of money last week. I'm not going to do anything this week, or I don't. I'm not the best on budget.
Right. All right, great. So let's jump into you touched a little bit on healthcare, and you do have travel insurance that you said you needed to
Oh,
prove to once moving there, that's a part of applying for the retirement visa. And you're paying, is it the same? Are you still on the same
Yes.
insurance plan? Is it 1100 per month?
Yeah, I went I just renewed it last year. I just went on, did an internet search,
Mhm.
travel insurance, give me quotes, and it comes up with several different companies. Here's some quotes for insurance. How much do you want a deductible or whatever? And I just chose something.
Okay.
And actually, uh, I have not used the insurance. I've been to the doctor a few times and the dentist once. Um, and it was so cheap
Hmm.
that well, here's the thing. You might want to write this down. If you're going to move to France, there's an app called Doctolib,
Okay.
Doctolib, and you download that, and it comes up with all doctors in different areas of expertise and dentists. And you say, "Hey, I live in this neighborhood. I'm looking for a doctor. What do you got?" And then it just has this list, all these doctors who have appointments available on certain days. You
Wow.
just click it, and then you go.
Yeah, that sounds great.
So I went to the doctor. I wasn't sick. I just had a few prescriptions that I wanted to refill, and it was a pretty standard doctor visit. Um, One difference, there was not receptionist, no nurse. It was just the doctor in her office. She asked me questions about my health history. I had a few documents, a few prescriptions. Um, she took my blood pressure, listen to the heart, that simple stuff. Came time to pay the bill, 25 euros.
Okay, wow. You didn't use your
And
insurance to cover the cost of that. You just paid out of pocket.
yeah, and it's for 25 euros. It's not worth going back to the, insurance to do that. And
Sure.
then to fill the prescriptions, I love the pharmacy system here because they have, since it's universal health, they have contracted through their suppliers the medicines that they get and the milligrams, the dosages, and there's pretty much a standard frequency of taking the meds. So I had a prescription. I went in, and the pharmacist looks at the prescription, literally goes to a drawer and hands it to you. Not that, oh, you got to give us 2 hours, 3 hours. Oh, we didn't get the facts from the doctor, that nightmare. It was
Yeah.
just bam, done.
Wow.
One of my prescriptions, the pharmacist looked at it and he's like, "Oh, do you have a carte vitale, which is a health reimbursement card that French people get?" And I was like, "No, I don't." He's like, "Oh my God, this is so expensive." And I was like, "Well, okay, how much is it?" And he said, 45 euros.
Hmm.
And I was like, "Yeah, just give it to me." Because, as Americans, we're used to paying
A,
tons.
a lot more. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's incredible when people learn, and that's another reason why there are so many people leaving the US is because of the cost of medical care and prescription.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of healthcare available in overseas to people, and the quality is exceptional. And there are a lot of countries that are ranked above the U.S. as far as
A
quality
lot.
and efficiency. And it sounds like it's run very efficient, which is fascinating to me in a city of Paris, where you got just a tremendous amount of volume of people. And when they can do things
Uh-huh.
efficiently, there's something to learn from that.
Well, and there is, you know, whenever you have a cold or the flu and you go, like, I don't know, like a supermarket or a pharmacy, and you just need some Sudafed or whatever, and you're
Yeah,
looking at that aisle and it's just like so many choices.
yeah, yeah,
It's just daunting. What's good? What's crap? But here in the pharmacy, and this just happened, I've been having some allergies, some, sinus problems that were kind of new, some kind of tree pollen, I think.
hmm,
Um, and I just went to the pharmacist and was like, "Hey, I have some allergies. And like, you want a pill or a spray?" And I said, "A spray." And he hands it to me. and it's
Yeah.
miraculous.
Wow.
It works better than anything I've ever had. And it was like,
Wow.
12 euros.
Yeah, that those are the kinds of stories that are just amazing to me when I do this podcast, talk to people and they share this kind of information, it just blows me away. Um,
And when you're sick, when you're not feeling well, I
yeah.
don't want to have to decide what I want or what's
Yes.
best. And the pharmacists, they know what viruses are going around,
Yes. Yep.
right? And
Yep.
so they know what to give you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it takes a
Yeah.
lot of pressure.
That's great. Well, that's great. There's a lot of room for improvement here in the US for sure. Will, that's
Yes, definitely.
everything. I've covered everything. Is there anything that you can think of for the viewers that are considering moving to France or Paris that we didn't cover that could be beneficial for them?
Well, all I would have to say is, if you want to do it, and don't wait. I don't know. I've seen lately on social media when people look back on their lives, um, and have regrets. Uh, they don't regret not buying a bigger house or having the latest car. They regret not having the experiences
Mm,
and doing things while they can. And that's why I think I told you earlier that people advised me, hey, if you work another year or two, you can get this much more in retirement. But I thought, hey, I'm young now. I can walk now. I can enjoy things now. In a
mhm.
year or two, is that going to be the same situation? We're not guaranteed any amount of time. So I just thought I'm doing it now. And if something changes, if I run out of money, you know, my situation, if I get more grandkids, um, then I can always go back.
Mm.
But I can do this now.
Great advice, Will. Well, thank Will Conley.
Thank
Thanks
you.
so much for taking the time out of your day to share all this info, and I'll talk to you soon.
Okay. Thanks. Great meeting you too. Bye bye.
Okay, bye.